this is where the fun begins. Are you ready for fan-driven Razorback talk? For the fans, by the fans. This is Inside the Hog Pen with your hosts, Razorback Zach and Marcus MC Carlton.
Let me talk to you.
More Memorial games suck. Oh, they suck so bad. Oh, what's up, everybody? I'm Razorback Zach. Welcome to another pod exclusive. Hanging out with my boy from Wednesday nights, the glue that holds the whole thing together, Marcus MC Carlton. And of course, we've got Jesse the Beard Thurman with us running the boards back at the Sideline Radio Network compound. And yeah, that's my 2 cents worth. So we can cut the tape right there because War Memorial games just suck. But that's what we're here to talk about today. On today's episode is Little Rock games bad or worse? Because there's no good thing about it. There's no good thing.
Tell us how you really feel, Zach.
I can't do that because sponsors would drop us like a rock. They drop us like a $2 bill on Christmas Day. So, that being said, MC, you live up in the NEA. Of course, Jesse, you are I wanted you to be a part of this because you're a NWA transplant. You did live down here in Central Arkansas. MC, you went to the game last year where they ran out of water. The scanners weren't working.
Right.
I went this year.
Seems like there was one other thing that happened last year, but I don't remember now.
And it didn't get any better this year. No matter what people say, no matter what reports come out of that stadium, It did not get any better. But here's the key, is you hear all of these bad things about this stadium during Razorback games. But Catholic High School plays there every week. They're a high school here in Central Arkansas. They play, that's their home stadium every week. And you don't hear that kind of thing come out of there. Benton Bryant, arguably one of the largest high school football games in the country, and it is the biggest high school football game in the state.
By far the biggest one in the state, by far.
They play there once a year and draw an even bigger crowd. But again, you don't hear of these problems during that game. So is this, and I will throw this nugget out there just because I can, are we looking at sabotage here? Like, you're the conspiracy theorist.
Well, I was, I'm placing my tinfoil on and tightening it down. And, I mean, I think it's worth posing the question because now the crowds, I'm glad you brought up the Salt Bowl because the Catholic crowds are not going to be anywhere near the crowd of a Razorback game. But the Salt Bowl actually this year outdrew the Razorback UAPB game. So it lends to the theory that they would have the same problems because it was the very next night.
It was 24 hours later. And so from what I've heard, the Salt Bowl outdrew the Razorback game by about 5,000 people.
That's a lot for a high school game, man. That's
we're talking, I'm going to gauge that the Razorback game, and of course, we're going to get into every problem that I experienced in that stupid ass stadium here in a little bit. But that game, I believe that game drew about 35,000 people. The Salt Bowl did. I think that one drew about 35 to 38,000. The Razorback game only drew 30 to 32,000. I think
now they announced 40,000 for the Razorback game.
They may have. There was not 40,000 people there.
I would agree.
If there were, MC, they were crammed in the damn concourse because let me explain something to you. In years past, okay, and this is the way they do it at Razorback Stadium. In years past, if you have a specific section, you go into the closest gate to that section. You can't go. So if you're sitting on the east side of the stadium, you can't go into the gates on the west side of the stadium. If you're sitting in the south end zone, you can't go into the north end zone gates.
There's a reason your ticket tells you which gate to go to.
They don't say that on Little Rock games, though. They open the floodgates for lottie-dottie mother everybody. And it crammed and congested and screwed up the concourse so bad, nobody could move. On top of which, it's a municipal stadium. So they have to gate off about 2/3 of the concourse during pregame to let the color guard come through, the band, the cheerleaders, the team runs through the tunnel here. And I have saved this for 3 days.
Took a lot of convincing to get you to save it this long.
An act of Congress. And it took a lot of medication to keep me from just losing my freaking mind. But I don't care. I mean, I got served hot drinks. The bathrooms quit working. Of course, this doesn't matter to us, but the AC in the press box stopped working. The TV and the radio had technical difficulties. Now, here's the thing. If it was just TV, I could point that blame at ESPN. But when you have technical difficulties across the board, where the refs' mics are cutting out, you can't get people in the stands, and here's the problem. And I'm not going to cross the political boundary here, but you didn't see this kind of issue when this thing was independently ran by the War Memorial Stadium Commission.
Yeah,
ever since it got taken over by the state parks and recreation or tourism or whatever, and they put park rangers in here. They turned into freaking Jellystone. Anyway, let me take a breath.
Get you a woosaw. Get a woosaw in there.
Woosaw.
Because I'm glad you brought up the fact that it is now government run. Because when it was run by the War Memorial Stadium Commission, there were still a little bit of issues here and there, but it was not to this level. Where we're at right now with this, I mean, guys, let's face it. If we can't have running water in the stadium, condemn the place. If we can't have running water, and we've talked about this, I think we talked about this a little bit on our last Wednesday night show. If not, I know we've talked about it off the air. But sometimes in order to create change, not just bad things have to happen. Bad things have to happen to the correct group of people. So in order to get change made, the best thing in the world that could have happened was the press box having no water, having no bathroom, running out of cold drinks, not having air conditioner.
They didn't run out of cold drinks. Okay, the refrigeration units that held these drinks stopped working.
So when you've got these people, because I talked to somebody who was in the box, saw a very prominent Razorback media person go to the little window where they serve you the drinks in the press box and ask for a drink, and was told he wanted a soda. It's like, we're out. If you want a soda, you can go down to the concourse and get one.
You couldn't.
Now,
there's no way.
There's so many things wrong with this statement. First off, a member of the media, and this was somebody, I'm not going to name drop, but let's just say this is somebody that is at pretty much every Razorback game and has a very prominent role. And he was told, if you want a soda, you're going to have to go down to the concourse. Are you kidding me? And then you've got, you think about media in this state, okay, whether it's radio, TV, newspaper, whatever. the guys who would be considered media royalty for statewide media were all sitting here in the press box, all had sweat rolling down their face. All of them couldn't go use the bathroom because there was no water pressure. I mean, what are we doing here? Is this not like the ultimate embarrassment of embarrassments to have ESPN come in to do a game in this facility? And if I remember right, because I've been up in the press box, but it's been a while, the where like some of the cameras and stuff set up, I think there's some that go above, and then I think there's some that go on the same level as press row. So for ESPN to have issues on top of it, it more than likely it's going to be one of two things. Their equipment was not getting proper ventilation and probably got too hot, or there was a connectivity issue with Ethernet, fiber, whatever they've got. I doubt they've got fiber in War Memorial Stadium, but for the sake of argument, let's say they do. There was either, Ethernet or fiber connectivity problem or something. But if you don't have AC on a night when it's as hot as it was that night, and Zach can testify as to how hot it was at kickoff, you've got all this equipment that you've got to run to put this broadcast on. All that generates heat. So you've got to have extra AC or extra cooling methods to keep all this equipment from overheating. I saw it in a game. We're recording this on Sunday. I saw it on a game last night, Saturday night. I was watching a game and they were using a wireless camera down on the field, and I knew what to look for because I've used this equipment. You could see the little warning coming on the screen from that camera that says, hey, TDK, 456 is overheating, which meant their wireless transmitter was overheating. So down on the field is one thing, but if you've got stuff up in the box that is overheating because the box can't provide AC, that's unacceptable. Anybody that's affiliated with promoting the fact that we need to keep games here right now, I don't know how they're showing their face right now, because this is unacceptable.
So I walked around the tailgate area, and big thank you to everybody that I stopped and talked to, none of which wanted to be on camera, which is totally fine. Majority of them were from the Central Arkansas area, and they all wanted more games in Little Rock because not just because of the stadium itself, but for cost reasons, because it's a little bit cheaper to come to the games here in Little Rock, especially if you live in like Hot Springs, Texarkana, El Dorado, Jonesboro.
It's cheaper for me coming from Jonesboro.
The majority of the people that are screaming, take the games and put them in Fayetteville, are the NEA guys or NWA guys, which, yes, I agree with them. If you're going to do it right. Put all those games in Fayetteville, because you can't bring recruits here. This is an away game for Arkansas.
That's the other thing.
This is a neutral site. This is technically a neutral site game for Arkansas. This is not a home game.
Right.
Okay. And I've been preaching it. I've been preaching it since we did the curse episode. The only game that should ever be in Little Rock, Arkansas State.
And that's going to happen next year. But here is my thing with that. You said there was about 30 to 32,000 at this game.
There wasn't 40,000 people there.
Okay. So, let's fast forward a year. This is 2025 season opener. The first time ever that Arkansas State and Arkansas are going to meet on the gridiron. You're probably looking at attendance records falling. I would lay money on it. I don't have that they will set an attendance record for that game. Okay. So the stadium in its current condition, it can't handle 31,000 people. What's going to happen when you double that and there's 60,000 people there? Because I'm telling you, there's going to be the entire city of Jonesboro is going to shut down to come to this game.
So capacity crowd as it stands right now for War Memorial Stadium is 54,120.
Okay. You will have 54,120 at that game.
Plus another 10 to 15,000 tailgating outside.
Just tailgating. Yes.
You will see what that golf course and that tailgating experience is like next year of what it was like back in its heyday.
So what happens when you get 54-120 in that stadium? How quickly are things going to go south? Because what did they make it to half? I mean, when was it that the water pressure went out in the press box?
It wasn't even
halftime, right?
No, it wasn't even second.
It was before kickoff.
It's before kickoff.
Okay, so
but here's the other thing: the scanners, the ticket scanner, because they came out and they said, "Oh, well, we've doubled the ticket scanners, so we didn't have this problem." Okay, what you did not take into account was the 30,000 people that use Verizon, AT&T, and all these other cell phone providers or whatever network you're on.
Yeah.
Being there. Because think about it. How hard was it for me to get a signal to get you guys to join you guys on the pregame show?
Oh, yeah.
You don't see that. We never had, and I will put this on me. We never had this issue when we did pregame shows from Fayetteville. All right? Never had this issue. Okay.
You were able to give us live shots from inside the stadium.
I could not even pull up scores. I couldn't use my phone at all once I crossed into the stadium in Little Rock.
That's what happened to me last year.
It was a freaking paperweight, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I apologize. I'm a little under the weather. The scanners on the entire west side of the stadium stopped working to the point where you had people standing outside damn near halftime just trying to get into the stadium because, number one, the scanners weren't working. Number two, the crowd control was non-existent. It was so packed, and there were people that were trying to go both ways. Because, technically, you can walk both ways. Ain't happening. It was all... There's nothing good to say. And I did see one of the water... I just saw one water monster, by the way.
Okay.
I did see one. It was leaking. I don't think it was cold. I just saw it was leaking.
So let me ask you this. We've talked about, you talked to some fans that want more games there. Let's take the fans out of this and let's look at this strictly from a business and administrative standpoint and logistics. Is it worth asking the question of the people who are there to, like director of operations for the stadium? I don't know if that's a real title or not, but for the sake of argument, we're going to use that here.
Okay.
Director of operations for the stadium, live event coordinator, the people that are in charge on the day of the events. Is it worth asking the question, why are these people being allowed to continually fail? Because we're having the same issues every single year. Because a lot of the things you named off right there that happened this year happened last year with me. The scanners did not work going into the stadium to the point where they just quit asking for tickets and it was like, okay, if you're in line, just go in the facility. So I remembered the other thing that happened as well. In addition to running out of water, before they ran out of water last year, they were advertising all week leading up to the game. Hey, we're cashless this year. We're cashless. Everything's going to be debit card. Well, got in there by mid first quarter. None of the debit card scanners were working. A cashless stadium had to turn around and say, well, we can sell you this if you have cash, but you better have exact change because we're cashless and if you give us a 20, you better buy $20 worth of stuff.
Concession stand that I went to was just inside of gate 9. Right next door to the stadium office. And that line did not move. Let's see, I got in. I must have stood in that line for a good 20, 25 minutes in the same spot because there was no clear direction as to, there were two guys, there were two POS systems, point of sales. Okay. behind the counter that was supposed to be directing people had no idea what he was doing, but only one POS system worked. And even then, that one was struggling.
Yeah.
And people would order something and he'd go, well, it ain't cold, but do you still want it?
And I understand coolers can only hold so much, and you're going to be overwhelmed at the very beginning because people are hot. They're waiting in line. They're trying to get in. Immediately, they're going to go get something to drink. I get that. But you have to be forward thinking enough to where your pallets of drinks while you may have pallets of drinks sitting back there, you need to at least get a couple of little portable coolers or something to put them in so they're not 84 degrees when you're handing somebody a Gatorade or a Coke or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, it needs to at least be like room temperature.
Sell Pepsi products. It's the home stadium for Catholic High School here in Little Rock.
So let me ask you this and I know you probably just went to one concession stand, but you
couldn't get to the other ones.
So every time I've been to War Memorial Stadium, from the time I went to my first game through the game last year, the concession stands are not run by a group, like by a third-party professional group like they are in Fayetteville. This is all civic groups. This is football teams looking for fundraisers or civic groups or whatever. Is that still the case?
No. These were grown-ass peeps working these. I think these were on-staff member volunteers or something.
So like a staff mark third-party type deal. Okay, because last year...
This isn't like Simmons. So if you remember Simmons Bank Arena, those are run by schools, event, different groups. Because I know my aunt ran one for years. My aunt and her school ran one for years. Or the church, or a church ran one, or a dance company, or whatever.
And that's what's been the case for War Memorial for the longest time. I just didn't know if it was still that way.
No, and I've reached out to a friend of mine that I went to high school with. I'm going to see if I can get him on eventually to talk about, because he used to be the back in the day, and we're talking like 15 years ago, almost 20 years ago now. He used to be the manager for the concession stands at War Memorial Stadium back in the day, and I want to get his take and see what he thinks about it all. This is not something that's going to go away. This is not a gripe session where we're just getting onto this podcast bitching about just because we're disgruntled. This is a serious problem, and if you're going to continue to have Razorback games in Little Rock, you're going to have, and I said this on Dave Ellswick on Friday morning, you're going to have to either dump a buttload of money into that stadium, or you're going to have to demolish it and start over.
And I don't think they'll ever demolish it, because with it being what it is, War Memorial Stadium, pretty sure it's a historical landmark. Your only choice then is to refurb and put a bunch of money into it. But the way I understand it, because of it being a historical landmark, there's an extra set of red tape you got to go through to even get money to make upgrades.
And we're gonna throw this to a quick break to hear from our sponsor. You have to look at it like this: if it was the War Memorial Commission, it'd be one thing. The problem is, and I'm going to steer clear of the political ramifications of this. So I will say this: there was a very prominent government official in attendance, and when this person, and I'm not making this up, when this person was asked about the condition of the stadium, it was vehemently denied. If that doesn't tell you that there are problems.
I'll leave you with this before we go to break. You know the 9 most terrifying words in the world?
I don't know.
I'm from the government, and I'm here to help.
So we're gonna get Jesse's take on this, because Jesse's over here dying right now, but we're gonna take a quick break and hear from Meeks Design Company. But on the other side of the break, we'll pull Jesse in here and see what he has to say about all this, because he is a Central Arkansas transplant who now lives out in the most furthest corner of Northwest Arkansas that I think you can get to still be considered an Arkansan. You're listening to a pod exclusive about Little Rock games and why we should not have them in Little Rock. Back in just a minute.
Meeks Design is your one-stop shop for custom clothing with a personal touch. At Meeks Design, we can help you tell your story through your wardrobe. Your imagination on a hat, shirt, pullover, or nearly anything wearable. And while you're picking out some custom clothing, check out the one-of-a-kind handmade soaps from the Bobcat Soap Company. Find us on Facebook and let us create custom swag just for you at Meeks Design.
All right, welcome back to Inside the Hog Pens pod exclusive on Little Rock games and why they've gone from bad to worse and why we should never do that again because Little Rock games now suck. So before the break, and I want to pull. We've got a special guest in studio, and I want to pull him in here too, Jesse, if we can, if he's able to. We're gonna get Jesse's thought on this, but we've also got the wise man, the Paul Heyman of our group, hanging out with us when we're recording this, and I want to get his take here after Jesse gives his, because this is, I mean, MC. Here's the thing. You said it best when we were recording the Curse episode, is we can sit up here and bitch and complain and moan and groan all we want. But part of the things of what we do here at ITHP is we want to give solutions. They may not be the smartest or the best solutions, but they're solutions nonetheless.
Yeah, I would say right now we're at the point where there are no bad ideas.
So Jesse, for those of you that don't know, Jesse the Beard Thurman is our executive producer on Wednesday nights for our main show, ITHP. Jesse, you're a Northwest Arkansas transplant. You live down here in Central Arkansas, kind of in the same area that I'm in. So you've been to both Little Rock games. You've been to both and Fayetteville games. You are like in the furthest corner of Northwest Arkansas as you could get. What do you think about all of this?
There's one town between me and the Missouri border and one town between me and the Oklahoma border. But yeah, I'm up here in the corner. The one Little Rock game I went to, Buddy and I went to see us play Mizzou the year he who should not be named got fired. So went to the Mizzou game down there at War Memorial. It was a good time. It was an empty stadium. It was cold and rainy that day, but I had fun. But my thing on this is, now my parents growing up Texas fans, so there's a couple times I went with friends to Fayetteville to go to a game. And as a kid, riding in the back of a minivan or an SUV or whatever you're riding in, the excitement you get when you go through the tunnel, being from Central Arkansas. There's no tunnels down there.
Mm-hmm.
That's a cool experience in itself. And then after you go through that tunnel, about 15 to 30 minutes after that, you see this beautiful hog as you're coming down the hill to take the Razorback Road exit. And that is part of the experience of going to an Arkansas Razorback game. Plus, football is a fall sport, and Arkansas doesn't get much more beautiful than the colors changing on 49 in the fall. And
that's another excellent point. Yeah,
that is a very good point.
That's part of the experience of going to a Razorback game. You don't get that in Central Arkansas. Central Arkansas is great. Plenty of stuff to do. You got your mountains down there, but nothing like Northwest Arkansas. And to me, that's just, it's the experience. It's like walking through the Grove in Oxford. It's like the Walk of Champions in Oxford. That's the one road game I've been to, so that's why I keep referring to Oxford. Yeah. I am not an Ole Miss fan.
Between you and MC, I swear to God. I'm starting to believe the two of y'all are closet Ole Miss fans. The way y'all talk about the experience down there.
That is like the worst. Well, not the worst insult you could give me, but it's one of the worst.
I mean, I would never insult you, MC. I'd never do such a thing, but I am concerned about you because, boy, you talk.
I'm like Jesse, though. I do recognize when something's cool. I mean,
oh yeah, definitely. And the thing is, though, too, is the Little Rock games that we know now are not the Little Rock games from 25 years ago, from when Houston Nutt was here, like the Miracle on Markham 1, Miracle on Markham 2, all those games, because there was a different aura about Little Rock games the day after Thanksgiving when LSU was in town versus a Thursday night season opener against UAPB, against against who I like to call, it's not even little brother, it's baby brother.
Yeah.
Okay. It's second cousin twice removed.
I'm not even going to touch that one.
I could go off on a tangent here, but I'll just say this. When you have to shorten the game 2 years in a row because things are so out of hand, you don't have any business playing that team anymore. And I'll leave it there. It doesn't matter if that game was at Pine Bluff, at Little Rock, or at Fayetteville. If you're having to take time off the clock, don't do it anymore.
Funny you should mention that. So I'm going to harken back to a couple of comments that you and Jesse made on Wednesday night.
Okay.
Because like you said, we're recording this on the following Sunday. you guys put money on the games, right? You guys, through Bet Saracen.
I've been known to give Bet Saracen a little business every now and then.
So, the whole thing with Oaklawn versus Bet Saracen.
Okay.
It came out that because the game was shortened, Saracen actually had to alter the rules of their payouts.
They didn't have to, they chose to.
Because had they kept it the way it was, because of, and this has been thrown around for days now, quote, strict interpretations of a rule. Had they kept it the way it was, all of the winning bets on that game were null and void because it wasn't an official game.
It wasn't a 60-minute game.
It wasn't a 60-minute game. Okay. Here's the thing. I tried to do some research before the show, before we came on and record here. And I tried to Google War Memorial's Stadium Commission, tried to see how much the state was paying for War Memorial Stadium's operations. The Arkansas Department of Finance and Administration's website has a Google blurb out there. But you go to click on the link. And MC, do you know what it says?
I have a pretty good idea.
Jesse, do you?
Since we're going there.
MC's the tech guy. I'll let him take this one.
I think you're going to see a big 404.
You are absolutely correct. 404, page not found. And if that doesn't scream everything you need to know about how much the state of Arkansas cares, or lack of, for War Memorial Stadium. Now, again, we're going to bring Loki in here, our wise man, our Paul Heyman, for you wrestling fans here. Loki, are you with us still?
Yes, I'm here.
So, okay, you've not been to Little Rock games, correct?
I've not been to a Little Rock game, but I've been around the area where War Memorial is.
Okay, but you have been to a game in Fayetteville here recently.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What do you think about all of this? I mean, you haven't been, and again, people are going to come after you and say, well, he's never been, so how can he have an opinion? Look, anybody can have an opinion, okay?
I mean, that's absolutely true. Like I said, I've never been to a Little Rock game, but when my lady's dad was in the vet's hospital, and I would walk down the road to go get us something to eat. Like I've been where War Memorial is. It's a big old circle. I mean, these guys are absolutely right when they're talking about the tunnel. The tunnel, that's that feeling like you're almost there. And I mean, because I'm coming from Mena, which is about 45 minutes away from the Oklahoma border, but it's the Boston Mountains and all the foliage coming through there. It's just straight on eye candy. But when you go to Little Rock, which is perpetually under construction, just all that road construction makes that trip a pain in the ass. Maybe it's just me.
I'm coming from the Central Arkansas area when I go to Fayetteville, and big thank you to Chef James Harris of Harris Made Chef Services for sponsoring our trips to Fayetteville, by the way. There is something about taking that left turn, that left curve, going into the tunnel, and you're coming up on that tunnel.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And it's like and when you get to the other side, you're in Razorback Nation. You're in the heart.
It's a gateway almost.
It is. And then, like Jesse said earlier, when you top the hill at exit 60, and you see that Razorback, that giant Razorback on the side of Razorback Stadium, and you see Old Main off in the distance. Okay, look, I'm
getting the goosebumps, man. I'm getting ready to Hulk Hogan this shirt off. I mean,
MC's about the Horace Hogan over here. It's a different atmosphere, and it can be comparing apples to oranges here. Yes, but there's nothing like Razorback game day in Fayetteville.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, and even the whole vibe in Little Rock feels different than Fayetteville, just on a day-to-day.
I'm going to tell you right now, I drive that little area of Little Rock almost on a daily basis. There is zero. And if But there's nothing exciting about coming down 630 almost to downtown Little Rock and turning into War Memorial. Nothing. In fact, there's all negative emotions when you do that.
I don't know. You get to see the Capitol in the distance, and that's about where that stops.
So from where the stadium is, you don't even see the Capitol. You don't see the downtown skyline. You see the big red barn from the petting zoo in Little Rock Zoo. That's pretty much it. And a golf course that used to be fun.
What? Okay, so let me throw this at you, and I haven't given anyone a heads up because I want a natural answer reaction here.
Jesse, I'm scared.
What if there is any kind of an advantage or a good reason? What is the reason that we continue to play down here? Is it, and nostalgia is not a reason. Nostalgia is an excuse. And don't give me this, and I know you guys are not going to go here, but I've made comments on Facebook groups, Razorback groups, about why are we continuing to play here? And everything I get back is either nostalgia because there's been so many great memories made there, or this is the way it's always been because it pulls the whole state together. Well, last time I checked, 75,000 come from all over the state to go to Fayetteville. So what is the reason that we continue to do this? Because it costs the program money to play down here. You can't host recruits. They don't make anything off concessions because they don't run the concessions. I mean, why do we keep doing this?
Contractual obligation.
But should there not be, and I'm assuming, I'm no lawyer, but I would assume that there is some kind of clause, like an escape clause in that contract, that if you don't have running water at the stadium, we can tell you to get bent and we're out of the contract.
That's a health department issue to start with.
So here's the thing.
Well, before you do your thing, let me throw this at you.
All right.
And this was brought up to me, and I didn't think about this at first, but when it was brought up to me, I was like, oh, good God. There was no water pressure, no running water, right?
I know where he's going with this.
So
I know exactly where he's going with this.
He's going to go Sam Jones on us.
Exactly. Our boy Sam Jones brought this up on Wednesday night. If there's no water pressure, there's no running water, how are the people in the concession stand handling the popcorn and the hot dogs and nachos and anything else that's in an open container? How are they keeping their hands clean before they hand me my nachos?
You want me to answer that?
I don't. Well, yeah, because I didn't get any concessions because I didn't go. So yeah, go ahead.
Hand sanitizer
and gloves. I'm more concerned
hand sanitizer, no gloves.
I'm more concerned with, I don't know how many restrooms there are in War Memorial, but when you've got 40,000 people in that stadium
and 20,000 of them have been drinking all day.
Yeah.
And no water pressure. And I heard the toilets weren't flushing. That story does not end well for somebody at the end of the night.
Well, and you combine that with it being 117 degrees outside.
So let me throw a little history lesson at you guys, because that's what I do. Arkansas started playing at War Memorial Stadium in 1948. Can anybody tell me why?
Because it was a pain in the ass to get to Fayetteville at that point. There was no I-49.
Didn't have lights.
Razorback Stadium didn't have lights until 1975, if I do remember right.
I thought it was later than that, honestly.
Something.
Well, and I did a little bit more research, and I have the trusty media guide, and I want to take an excerpt from this. Not expert. Excuse my language.
An expert excerpt?
That's supposed to be your job, boss.
Turn with me in your Bibles to page 224. And
hallelujah.
Yeah, right?
Hallelujah.
Put your hands on the radio.
They did not have lights until 1974.
Okay.
The easy answer of why we continue to have games in Little Rock: tradition. And I don't mean the Masters where it's a tradition unlike any other.
No, I get you.
And I hate to throw this out there, but it's, and I'm gonna put two words together, and my English teacher may actually roll over in her grave when I say this: traditionally nostalgic.
Yeah, but neither one of those pay the bills.
But that's why you continue to have it down here. Let me ask you guys something: does Florida State play home and home?
Yes,
I think so. Yes.
Does South Carolina Clemson?
As far as I know, yes.
Okay. How about Auburn, Alabama?
Yes. Now
It is
I
now
will
home and home.
throw the nugget out there that up until about I would say 20, 25 years ago, that game was in Birmingham. But about 25 or 30 years ago.
I'm talking recent decade.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, recently, yes, it's home and home.
Arkansas is the only university in the SEC. I don't know about the country yet. I'm still doing some research. But Arkansas is the only SEC school, and that includes the newcomers of A&M, Missouri, Texas, and Oklahoma, to have 2 home stadiums, unless you're the Georgia Bulldogs and the Superdome in Atlanta counts as the second home.
Well, I mean,
big pool. But
what about Texas? What about Texas? Do they do? I know they have their stadium in Austin, but don't they consider the Cotton Bowl to be somewhat home?
No, they call that they call it a neutral.
That is a true neutral site.
Interesting fact about that: if you've never watched that game, first climb out from under the rock you're living under.
Which game are you talking about, Jesse?
Loki, say the name so you don't shoot me for saying it incorrectly.
The Red River Shootout, that one?
Yes, that one.
Yes, that one. It is beautiful how they split that stadium in half. Down to the seat, that stadium is split in half. Half a god-awful burnt orange color, and the other half a god-awful shade of crimson.
But my point, and I was getting there, but my point is, these big rivalry games, these big the namestays of the SEC, Georgia, Alabama, LSU, Texas, Oklahoma, Michigan, okay, we'll even go outside the SEC, Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, they have one stadium. If you're going to keep games in Little Rock, the only way you're going to make any kind of an impact is you have to make it an opponent worth getting people in the stadium for. Nobody gives a damn about UAPB. Nobody's going to look at the schedule and go, hey, man, Thursday night, it's UAPB, man. That's the game to go to. Hell yeah. No, they're going to look at it and go, a Thursday night?
The next morning.
A Thursday night.
Yeah.
Where you know the score is going to be 3,000-0 by halftime. Okay? Or at least we hope so anyway.
Which it was pretty close to that.
However, I have a solution, okay? Outside of the political arena, outside of the renovations arena, I have a solution. Because correct me if I'm wrong. Let me step back in the weeds for a second, Jesse. But correct me if I'm wrong. But when Arkansas and Hunter Yurachek announced just a few years ago, mind you, the renewal of this contract, did it not say that it was going to be one game a year every other year? And on those off years, and on the off years, the spring game would be down here.
Yeah, but the NCAA or the SEC one shot down the whole spring game thing. I don't remember which one it was, but one of the two shot it down.
Okay.
I remember that. I was wondering what happened there, but that
was the original agreement, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
And it was supposed to be an SEC opponent, if I remember right.
I believe so, because they were good. The plan was to try to put the Missouri game there.
Why do you go from Missouri to UAPB? Why?
I see what you're saying.
Here's my solution. Here's my solution to all of this. Saturday night, 3 or 6 p.m. Arkansas State. One time a year.
But I go back to what I said earlier in the show. If you don't get the logistics and the infrastructure issues fixed, if you thought it was bad at the UAPB game, it's going to be 10 times worse when you have a standing room only, turning people away at the gates, full house for a historic game. And let's call that what it is, because it's the first time these two teams will have met on the gridiron. Mm-hmm. It's a historic game, which in my opinion is all the more reason to have it at Razorback Stadium. But anyway, that's another show for another day. You have one Hail Mary in you to have the perfect night of not running out of cold drinks, of having running water in the dadgum bathrooms, of scanners being on point to get you in the place, debit card scanners working. You got to have one night where everything is just a unicorn and sunshine and rainbows. That's the one game you got to have it on, because that's your one chance to do it right.
We're gonna bring our wise man back in here. We're gonna bring Paul Heyman back in here, and I'm gonna start calling him Paul Heyman. Loki, what you got, man? You got you something to say?
Well, I mean, that's the thing is we clearly have to do this. We have to do it every year. How do we make it not suck as bad?
Well, the answer is very simple. Okay, and I'm gonna use our experience, and I say ours because it'll make sense in a second. MC, you've been with the show how many? Almost 4 years now. What do we do every offseason after baseball before football starts?
We get together and say, okay, what can we fix? What can we do to make this better?
What did we do this year that we haven't done in the history of the show this year? We stripped it completely down to name only and built it back up.
Yeah.
Okay. You have to do that with War Memorial. You have to renovate that state. And I don't mean slap a coat of paint on concrete. They're half-assing this. And if they're not careful, they are going to completely fumble a historic moment next year to the point where we become the laughing stock.
Anybody that paid attention were already there. But this game was not something that drew national attention. If this had been an SEC opponent, we would be getting roasted nationally right now.
Well, here's a few things about that. We, being Arkansas, kicked off the SEC football season. We were the first SEC game to kick off for the season. So for a while, all eyes were on us.
And this is what we put out there for all those eyes to be on. Now, a lot of them are not going to know about the water pressure and all that, but seeing let's call it 2/3 full stadium on opening night, not the impression you want to put out there.
The camera on TV going black when Taylon Green scored his first touchdown as an Arkansas Razorback.
Yeah.
So we're talking about all this going wrong at War Memorial. Who's to say this isn't part of the curse?
Okay, so since you went there, I'm going to go a step further, because if you look back, the War Memorial Stadium is always known for the War Memorial magic, or the Little Rock magic, or where miracles happen, right? Okay, I'm going to throw this out there. The curse is fully 1,000% alive with War Memorial Stadium, because it has not been the same since the 2012 Louisiana Monroe game. Tell me I'm wrong, because from that point forward, Little Rock games have been awful. Okay, you think about, who was it Toledo that Brett Bielema lost to?
15-13 or 15-12.
Yeah. And that comes after losing to Monroe. You blow a big lead against Ole Miss in, I think it was 18.
18.
We were up at half.
Yeah. Up big at half. Up big at half. Pretty much dominating the game to that point. But it was like that 2012 ULM game, which I was at, by the way. But since that point, there has been no Little Rock magic. There has been nothing happen in that stadium worth remembering
until Bobby P came back.
Yeah, and then you go 10 for 10. I mean, that's the next big thing.
The heavens open, the angel sang "Woo Pig Suey," but the circle is complete.
I mean, I think you could make an argument for that being part of the curse.
For those listening, Zach's head exploded when MC and I went down that road. He wasn't expecting that exit.
Oh, just wait till you see his face, because when I ask if there's a way to make it suck less, I have an answer.
Okay.
Two birds, one stone. If Saracen and Oaklawn want to fight over this whole NIL issue, why don't we have one of them, preferably Oaklawn, because it's in their neck of the woods, dump money into that stadium? Not only would that give them access to that game, and it would also give them access to the USL soccer team and all that. It's revenue right down the street.
Let's go around the room as we're wrapping up here, as we're closing this out. MC, we can bitch and complain for hours and hours and hours. What is a solution outside of the obvious?
Outside of the obvious of not playing there, you're going to have to find a way, either from the state, and again, I'm trying to say this without being political, but the state's either going to have to allocate the correct amount of money for this place to get brought up, not just brought up to code, but brought up to the caliber where it's on par with other SEC stadiums. If it's going to continue to host an SEC team every year, then it needs to be put on par with, at minimum, places like Starkville or South Carolina, it needs to have the amenities that are current. And when I say current, I don't mean 2016 current. I mean at least 2024, if not future proofed. You've got to bring it up to SEC standards if you're going to continue to have an SEC team play there, whether that comes through private donations or that comes through state money. I don't care. If we're going to have to play there, let's get it to the point where it's not an embarrassment.
Jesse?
We talked earlier about the red tape we got to go through to get stuff done because it's a historical landmark. Either make it a historical landmark or make it a multi-use stadium. It can't be both.
Agreed.
Preach.
Agreed. Oh, man. I could go on and on and on about this stadium. And I used to love going to the stadium. War Memorial Stadium on Twitter put out a highlight package 24 hours before the game that used 25-year-old images from Miracle on Markham to hype said stadium.
Mm-hmm.
That didn't use any current footage. So that's one thing you need to look out for. But that's going to do it for us. Make sure you guys check us out, man. We're going to be on a ton of shows this season. Not only our own show on Wednesday nights, 7 p.m. along the Sideline Radio Network, but MC and I are splitting time with Outlaw Sports, Neckbeard Sports, Sunday and Monday nights, 7 p.m. The Sunday night show, MC is going to be a part of. He's going to be part of the reaction show of the week's games. I will be part of the preview show looking forward. I don't know how we ended up having that matchup, but hey, there you go. And then, of course, Wednesday nights is our show where you will find myself, Marcus MC Carlton, holding it down from the NEA Hog Pen, and Jesse the Beard Thurman. You'll find us on Wednesday nights. And then, of course, on game days, it is the Harris Made Chef Services Tailgate Show an hour before kickoff of every Razorback game, and then 30 minutes after the conclusion of the Razorback game is the Alan Kerr Advisors fifth quarter post-game show, and a whole lot of in between. And then every other week, it is the Dave Ellswick Show, Fridays, 10 a.m. on 101.1 The Answer. And of course, all of this will be on our Facebook page throughout the week. Plus, we've got polls, we've got flashbacks, and all this other stuff. So stay tuned for all of that. Thank you once again to Meeks Design Company, Alan Kerr Advisors, Harris Made Chef Services, Cam Productions, and all of you listeners out there, Hog Fanatics, for tuning in. I'm Razorback Zach from Marcus MC Carlton and Jesse the Beard Thurman. Until Wednesday, this has been an ITHP pod exclusive of Why Little Rock Games Suck. So long, everybody.
Thanks for watching this episode of Inside the Hog Pen. Listen anytime on your favorite podcast provider. And be sure to follow us on all our social network channels.